The day you realize that someone else can control your emotions is the day you realize you have been handing away the most valuable part of your life without even knowing it. Think about it for a moment. How many mornings have been ruined because of one careless message, one disrespectful comment, one look of disappointment, one rejection, one betrayal, or one person's opinion? How many nights have you replayed conversations in your mind wishing you had answered differently, wishing they understood you, wishing they treated you better? The painful truth is that most people never lose their peace because of what happens to them. They lose it because they allow someone else to become the author of their emotional state. Every insult becomes a command. Every criticism becomes a wound. Every act of ignorance becomes permission to suffer. Without realizing it, they give strangers, coworkers, family members, partners, and even people who barely know their name the power to determine whether they smile or cry, whether they feel confident or insecure, whether they sleep peacefully or stare at the ceiling until dawn. But here's the truth that changes everything. Nobody can control your emotions unless you silently hand them the keys. Your mind is like a house, and every time you react without awareness, you unlock the front door and invite chaos inside. The loud people enter first, then come the critics, the manipulators, the doubters, the people who project their own pain onto you. Before long, your peaceful home becomes crowded with voices that were never supposed to live there. And then one day you wake up wondering why your own thoughts no longer sound like your own. You have spent so much time carrying the opinions of others that you have forgotten the weight of your own truth. The strongest people in the world are not those who never experience anger, sadness, disappointment, or fear. They experience all of it. The difference is that they refuse to become prisoners of those emotions. They understand that emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. They knock on the door, they deliver a message, and they leave. Weak minds chase every emotion as if it were absolute truth. Strong minds observe emotions with patience and wisdom. Imagine standing beside a river. Every emotion is like water flowing past you. Some currents are calm, others are violent, but you are not the river. You are the observer standing safely on the shore. The moment you jump into every emotional current, you begin drowning in feelings that were never meant to define you. Society has taught you to react instantly. Someone insults you, react immediately. Someone ignores you, assume the worst. Someone succeeds before you, compare yourself instantly. Social media trains your nervous system to seek validation every few seconds.
Our phone becomes a machine that decides whether you feel worthy today. A few likes make you happy. Silence makes you anxious. One negative comment destroys the joy created by 100 compliments. Can you see the trap? The world profits from your emotional instability because unstable people are easier to influence, easier to manipulate, easier to sell to, easier to control. A calm person is difficult to manipulate because calmness creates clarity. Clarity creates independence. Independence threatens those who rely on your emotional dependence. This is why emotional mastery is one of the greatest forms of freedom you can ever achieve. It is invisible power. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be bought. It cannot be borrowed. It must be built from within, one decision at a time. Think back to the people who hurt you the most. Maybe they criticized you. Maybe they abandoned you. Maybe they underestimated your dreams. Maybe they laughed when you failed. Their actions were painful, but ask yourself one difficult question. Are they still hurting you today, or are you continuing the job they started? Sometimes the person who wounded us walked away years ago, yet we keep reopening the same wound every single day through memory, resentment, and imagination. We replay old conversations like broken recordings. We argue with ghosts who cannot hear us. We seek justice from people who have already moved on. In doing so, we become both the prisoner and the prison guard. Freedom begins the moment you stop asking others to give you the peace that only you can create. This does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. There is a profound difference. Emotionless people build walls because they fear pain. Emotionally intelligent people build boundaries because they value peace. Walls isolate, boundaries protect. Walls are built from fear. Boundaries are built from wisdom. One keeps everyone out. The other simply decides who deserves access. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. The greatest mistake kind people make is believing that endless patience is the same as endless tolerance. It is not. Every time you tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, you quietly teach people how to treat you. Every time you remain silent when your values are violated, you send a message that your peace is negotiable. But your peace is never negotiable. It is the foundation upon which your entire life stands. Without it, success feels empty, wealth feels meaningless, relationships become exhausting. Even your greatest achievements lose their beauty because your inner world remains at war. Emotional strength is not developed during peaceful days. It is developed in uncomfortable moments when every part of you wants to react, defend yourself, explain yourself, or seek revenge. Yet you choose something greater. You choose control. You choose silence when silence is strength. You choose words only when words create value. You choose distance when distance protects your soul. You forgive not because others deserve it, but because your future deserves freedom. The person who angers you controls you only if you accept their invitation. Remember that every insult is merely an offer, every criticism is merely an opinion, every attempt to provoke you is merely bait. You always have the power to decline. Imagine someone holding out a heavy bag of stones and demanding that you carry it. Would you take it? Of course not. Then why do you carry emotional burdens that belong to someone else's insecurity, jealousy, or anger? Their bitterness belongs to them. Their hatred belongs to them. Their fear belongs to them. Your responsibility is not to carry another person's emotional baggage. Your responsibility is to protect the peace that allows you to become the person you were created to be. The moment you stop reacting to everything, you begin seeing everything more clearly. You notice that many arguments were never about you. Many insults were reflections of someone else's pain. Many betrayals revealed their character, not your worth. Many endings became the beginning of a stronger version of yourself. Every difficult experience becomes either a prison or a teacher, and the decision belongs entirely to you. Every morning you wake up with one invisible choice that determines the quality of your entire day. Will you surrender your emotions to the world, or will you become their master? That choice is made long before the first challenge appears. It is made in the quiet moments when you decide who you are, what you value, and what you refuse to let disturb your peace. Because once you understand that your emotional state is your responsibility, you stop waiting for people to change before allowing yourself to be happy. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. You stop measuring your worth through someone else's opinion. And for the first time in a very long time, you begin to experience something rare in this noisy world, a mind that belongs entirely to you.
There comes a moment in every person's life when they finally understand that reacting is not the same as responding. Reacting is automatic. It is driven by fear, pride, ego, and old wounds that have never truly healed. Responding, however, is intentional. It is the quiet confidence of someone who no longer feels the need to prove their worth to anyone. Think about the greatest leaders, the wisest teachers, and the strongest individuals throughout history. They were not remembered because they shouted the loudest or because they won every argument. They were remembered because they remained steady while the world around them fell into chaos. They understood a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Your greatest strength is revealed not by how fiercely you fight every battle, but by how wisely you choose which battles deserve your energy. Every unnecessary argument steals time from your purpose. Every emotional outburst weakens your focus. Every moment spent trying to convince someone who has already decided not to understand you is a moment you can never recover. Time is the only currency that cannot be earned back, yet people spend it freely trying to control opinions that were never theirs to control. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. At first, it feels manageable. Then someone insults you and another stone is added. Someone betrays your trust, another stone. Someone underestimates your dreams, another stone. You fail, another stone. You compare yourself to others, another stone. Years pass, and eventually you wonder why life feels so heavy. The weight was never life itself. The weight was everything you refused to let go. Emotional freedom begins the moment you realize that forgiveness is not an agreement with what happened. It is a refusal to let the past continue stealing your future. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison while expecting someone else to become sick. The person who hurt you may already be sleeping peacefully while you continue replaying yesterday's pain. Ask yourself honestly, how many opportunities have you missed because your attention remained chained to something that can no longer be changed? The past is a closed chapter. Every minute spent trying to rewrite it is a minute stolen from the story you are still capable of creating.
This is why emotional mastery requires radical acceptance. Acceptance is not surrender, it is clarity. It is saying, this happened, I cannot erase it, but I refuse to allow it to define who I become. There is incredible power in that decision. It transforms victims into survivors, survivors into leaders, and leaders into people who inspire others simply by the peace they carry. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly bring calm with them? They do not need to announce their confidence. They do not demand respect. Their presence speaks before they ever say a word. Why? Because they have stopped allowing external circumstances to dictate their internal world. Their emotions are anchored, not drifting with every changing wind. Most people live like leaves blown by a storm. One compliment lifts them high. One criticism sends them crashing to the ground. One success makes them feel unstoppable. One failure convinces them they are worthless. Their identity changes with every opinion they hear because they have never built a foundation within themselves. But a tree with deep roots does not fear strong winds. It bends, but it does not break. The deeper your inner foundation becomes, the less power the outside world has over you. Building that foundation requires silence. In today's world, silence is rare because distraction is everywhere.
Every notification demands your attention. Every headline tries to provoke an emotional reaction. Every platform competes for your focus because attention has become the most valuable resource on earth. But if everyone else controls your attention, they eventually begin controlling your emotions as well. Protect your attention as carefully as you would protect your home. Do not allow every opinion to enter your mind. Do not consume negativity simply because it is popular. Your mind becomes what you repeatedly feed it. Feed it fear every day, and anxiety becomes your identity. Feed it comparison every day, and insecurity becomes your companion. Feed it wisdom every day, and peace quietly becomes your natural state. There is another lesson that changes everything. Not every emotion deserves expression. Modern culture often tells people to express every feeling immediately, but wisdom teaches something different. Feel every emotion, yes, acknowledge it, understand it, but do not obey every emotion. Anger demands instant action. Wisdom says, wait. Fear says, give up. Wisdom says, take one more step. Jealousy whispers, you are falling behind. Wisdom reminds you, your path has its own timing. Emotions speak loudly, but they are not always truthful. They are signals, not commandments. Imagine if every pilot flew an airplane based only on emotion instead of instruments. The result would be disaster. In the same way, if you navigate your life based only on temporary feelings, you will constantly change direction and never reach your destination. Discipline is the instrument panel of the human mind. It keeps you moving toward your purpose even when your emotions fluctuate. This is why emotionally strong people often appear calm under pressure. It is not because they feel less than everyone else. It is because they have trained themselves to pause before acting. That pause is where freedom lives. Between what happens to you and how you respond lies a space that nobody can take away from you. Inside that space is your character. Inside that space is your future. Inside that space is the person you are becoming. Every time you choose patience instead of impulsiveness, you strengthen that space. Every time you refuse to let someone provoke you, you expand it. Eventually, people begin to notice something different about you. The comments that once destroyed your confidence no longer shake you. The rejection that once kept you awake at night becomes a lesson instead of a life sentence. The disrespect that once demanded revenge now simply reveals who deserves less access to your life. You no longer chase people who repeatedly walk away. You no longer explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer waste precious energy trying to earn validation from people who cannot even validate themselves. Instead, you become focused on something infinitely more valuable, becoming someone you respect when you look in the mirror. Because at the end of every day, the most important conversation is not the one you had with the world, it is the one you have with yourself. If your inner voice is constantly shaped by other people's opinions, you will never hear your own wisdom. But when you learn to quiet the noise, something extraordinary begins to happen. You discover that peace was never something the world could give you. It was something the world could only distract you from.
The calmer you become, the more clearly you recognize manipulation. Manipulative people depend on emotional reactions. They know that if they can make you angry, fearful, guilty, or desperate, they can influence your decisions. But when you remain calm, their strategies lose their power. Your silence becomes stronger than their pressure. Your patience becomes stronger than their urgency. Your self-respect becomes stronger than their approval. And slowly, without even trying, you become impossible to control because your emotional life is no longer for sale. You realize that your happiness is not a reward someone else gives you. It is a discipline you practice every single day, regardless of who stays, who leaves, who applauds, or who doubts you. That is the beginning of real freedom, not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of an unshakable mind that refuses to let temporary circumstances define an eternal purpose.
The final transformation begins the moment you stop asking, "How do I make people treat me better?" and start asking, "How do I become someone whose peace cannot be stolen?" That single shift changes everything because it moves your focus away from what you cannot control and toward the only thing you truly own, your character. Character is built in moments no one applauds. It is built when you choose not to send the angry message you've rewritten 10 times. It is built when you refuse to argue with someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. It is built when you remain kind without becoming weak, when you remain confident without becoming arrogant, and when you walk away from disrespect without carrying bitterness in your heart. Many people believe strength is loud. They believe strength is proving someone wrong, winning every argument, or having the final word. But real strength often looks like silence. It looks like walking away when your ego begs you to stay. It looks like smiling without needing everyone to understand your journey. It looks like protecting your peace instead of protecting your pride. Your ego wants revenge. Your wisdom wants freedom. Your ego wants recognition. Your wisdom wants purpose. Every single day, these two voices compete inside you, and whichever one you feed becomes the architect of your future. Imagine your mind as a beautiful garden. Every thought you repeat is a seed. Every emotion you nurture is water. Every habit you practice is sunlight. If you constantly plant resentment, comparison, fear, and self-doubt, do not be surprised when your life becomes overgrown with anxiety and frustration. But if you intentionally plant gratitude, patience, courage, discipline, and self-respect, your inner world slowly transforms into a place where peace naturally grows. The world will always contain criticism, rejection, betrayal, disappointment, and uncertainty. You cannot remove every storm from your life, but you can become the kind of person who no longer fears the rain. Storms reveal what sunshine cannot. They reveal the strength of your foundation. They reveal whether your confidence was built on compliments or conviction. They reveal whether your identity depends on circumstances or principles. The people who seem unshakable are not protected from pain. They have simply decided that pain will educate them instead of enslaving them. Every disappointment becomes wisdom. Every failure becomes experience. Every betrayal becomes clarity about who deserves a place in their life. They stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question alone turns suffering into growth. Life has a remarkable way of preparing you through difficulty for responsibilities you could never carry otherwise. The pressure you survive today becomes the strength someone else admires tomorrow. One day, someone will ask you how you remained calm during moments that would have broken most people, and your answer will not be that life became easier. Your answer will be that you became stronger. You stopped expecting fairness from an unfair world. You stopped expecting permanent happiness from temporary circumstances. You stopped expecting everyone to understand your heart. Instead, you learned to understand yourself. You learned that your worth is not measured by applause, your value is not determined by rejection, and your future is not limited by your past. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence as weakness because they mistake noise for confidence. Let them. There will always be people who criticize your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them.
Let them. There will always be people who leave your life when they realize they can no longer manipulate your emotions.